Hey everyone, Wolf Lord Rho here. Today we're having a little bit of fun on the channel as we ask who could replace the Warmaster. No need for a spoiler warning today, so let's waste no time and just jump straight in. In the darkest days of the heresy, the Emperor knew even if Horus were defeated, another would rise to take his place. It's simply the way of chaos. The ruinous powers would never give in. As we know, that figure would turn out to be Abaddon, and he is proven to be beyond formidable, raising the Black Legion from the ashes of the Sons of Horus, forcing his way to the top of the food chain. Only Abaddon has proved able to unite all the traitor legions, and only Abaddon could have achieved the fall of Cadia. Now we know he is not going anywhere. Like all the major names in the 40k universe, it's these legends who make the setting what it is. So this is obviously just one of those fun what if discussions. And as always, this is just my opinion. There are no right or wrong answers. So drop your own thoughts in the comments below. But what if Abaddon fell? The Warmaster, the despoiler, was no more. Who out of all the major names would rise to fill the gap? Could anyone fill that void? Well, I think the logical inclination is to naturally assume someone else from the Black Legion would rise to the fore. One of Abaddon's trusted lieutenants would stake their claim and hold the Legion together. Well, I actually just don't see that happening. I have no doubt many warlords within the Legion would try, but that's exactly the problem. After Abaddon, there would be no member who could hold anywhere close to the same level of fear, respect, brotherhood, and downright awe that Abaddon does. For me, he is integral to not only the success of the Legion, but also its very survival. Abaddon is the glue that holds the Black Legion together. Without him, they are nothing. The moment Abaddon fell, I would have no doubt the Black Legion would immediately begin splintering and fraying, and it wouldn't be long until it fractured into outright warfare. Now, some of these warbands could be very large, given the unprecedented size of the Black Legion, even vast, but I don't see any way that could be enough to earn the Warmaster title. Especially from the other traitor legions, let alone the Primarchs. So if it's not from within the Black Legion a successor could be found, what other legion could step forward? Well, there are some legions that are currently so shattered and splintered in their own right that they simply aren't in the running, namely the Alpha Legion and the Night Lords. And even in the remote chance they could come together and unify enough under a single warrior's command, I think the two are so mistrusted by their peers, it'd be impossible to bring together the other traitor legions under their command. Short of maybe Sevatar coming back, I can't think of any character who would come close to Abaddon's gravitas. So who does that leave? Well, the traitor Primarchs, obviously. Angron, Lorgar, Mortarion, Perturabo, Magnus and Fulgrim. I think we can rule out Angron and the World Eaters for obvious reasons, and I would struggle to envisage Fulgrim being interested enough to try. Before his demonic ascension, possibly, but after, he's just more interested in the pleasures of Slaanesh. Magnus, I think, is certainly arrogant enough to believe he's the only one smart enough for the job. However, I do see a couple of knocks against him. Firstly, his legion is ruined. The rubric of Ahriman turned most of his legion into lifeless suits of armour. That's hardly an inspiring force to be seen or wish to join. Secondly, the legion was small even before this tragedy. With the traitor legions, strength matters. They aren't listening to you out of a sense of honour. You have to force your will upon them. Be strong enough to demand respect. Exactly what Abaddon did. Do you think he would have been Warmaster without the Black Legion being the strongest legion? Absolutely no chance. Thirdly, Magnus is a minion of Tzeentch's. That doesn't bode well for gaining the favour of the other gods. The Great Game is eternal. Quite simply, the other gods are not favouring one of their brothers' champions. Now that brings me to Mortarion. If any demon primarch who was dedicated to a particular god had a chance, well, I think it would be him. And I most certainly think he'd try. We've seen from the Dark Imperium trilogy, Mortarion is absolutely up for defying Nurgle's wishes. If he wanted to try and assert himself as the new Warmaster, he would. And I could see Mortarion's personality thinking he absolutely deserves it. I also think he is absolutely formidable enough to fight his way to the top of the pile. In his own right, he is an absolute wrecking ball and tank, all rolled into one. And the absolute biggest advantage he has, in my opinion, is his legion. Typhus aside, his legion is still pretty much firmly unified beneath him. Yes, they operate as individual warbands for the most part, but when Mortarion calls, they come. And that is all that matters. They are also one of the few legions that's actually grown in size over the years, pretty vastly as well, actively recruiting to grow their numbers. If in this what-if scenario the Black Legion had fallen to infighting and civil war, that could well leave the Death Guard as the biggest powerhouse within the traitor legions. Ultimately, the dedication to Nurgle causes a big problem in truly unifying the forces. In truth, it'd only be a matter of time before the other ruinous powers stabbed him in the back. However, I definitely could see Mortarion staking his claim. And moving on, that leaves us with Perturabo and Lorgar. Perturabo is a hard one to figure out here, because we really know virtually nothing about him since his ascension to demonhood, remaining locked away on Medringard for the most part. He's been involved in 2 Black Crusades, and more recently lost the War of Rust and Ruin to his brother Mortarion. So we know he is now at least more active, but the loss really does him no favours. For me, Perturabo absolutely has the smarts to become Warmaster, but I don't think he has the personality. It's not all fighting and domination, even within the Eye. There's still a lot of diplomacy and negotiation that comes into play, especially when it comes to someone seeking to be the new Warmaster. Allegiances matter. Perturabo is Chaos Undivided, not dedicated to a particular god, so that lands him in good stead. But I just don't think he would have the political chops to back up his brutal warfare. I think he would have struggled before he betrayed the Emperor, let alone now. And so that leaves Lorgar, the worshipper of the Pantheon, and master of the Word Bearers. Now this may surprise some people, but I actually think Lorgar could pull it off, at least to some degree. It's important to remember the Lorgar that ended the heresy was not the Lorgar from the Great Crusade. He went through a very defining character arc through those years, possibly the best one. He found the Primarch he was supposed to be. Okay, maybe not in the traitor aspect, but you know what I mean. He became a powerhouse of a Psyker in his own right, and a formidable warrior. No, not to the level of a Korax, but still he embraced that aspect. I mean, come on, this guy tried to overthrow Horus at the peak of the heresy. That is a fact forgotten way too much. You cannot underestimate the Horizon. Since then, he's ascended to demonhood and held his legion together. They've had power struggles during his isolation, but they are unified beneath him. And I don't think any legion would be able to match the sheer amount of cultists that the Word-Bearers could bring to bear. No, Lorgar may not match Mortarion in strength. His legion may not quite match the Death Guard either. However, I do think they run them close in both aspects. And I think he has one distinct advantage over any other opponent: his worship of the Pantheon as a whole. Lorgar is not dedicated to one god. He is not forced to obey the whims of a patron. He is not stuck in the eternal great game. In worshipping chaos itself, Lorgar could benefit from the favour of all the gods. He doesn't have natural enemies amongst the other legions, and he never truly had a bitter rivalry with any of his brothers. Guilliman obviously doesn't matter. No, they may not have had much respect for him during the Great Crusade, but that can change. In proving his dominance over the rest, that respect would grudgingly be earned, and if the four gods decided Lorgar was the chosen one, well then the other demon primarchs would have to fall in line. There's an absolutely great moment in the lore, for example, where Khorne himself stops Khan from killing Abaddon. Something I did plan to talk about this week but never got round to, so we'll definitely cover that soon. But regardless, what a symbol for chaos Lorgar would be. The golden horizon glowing with power, quite literally now in his ascended demon form. What a dark mirror to the Emperor of mankind that would be. A new glorious Warmaster, who just happened to be the man who wrote the very foundations of the Imperial Creed, the bedrock of the Imperium. How awesome a storyline would that be? At the end of the day, honestly, I don't think any of the Primarchs could pull it off as well as Abaddon. They're simply too arrogant at the end of the day, caught up in their own vendettas and ambitions. For all their talk otherwise, the Primarchs are a family. They will forever be united and will always be obsessed by their brothers and their father. Abaddon was able to put that all to the side, in a way the traitor Primarchs never could. He was able to look at the wider picture, the longer play. I just don't think the traitor Primarchs could truly ever do that when faced by a returned Guilliman, or any other brother who may return for that matter. Now there is one other name, however, who really shouldn't be overlooked for me. One who in many ways shares Abaddon's ability to look past the petty feuds, who can view the war as a business when he needs to, who has carved out an impressive empire on his own. And that is Huron Blackheart of the Red Corsairs. Blackheart has amassed a power base within the Maelstrom that is nothing short of impressive. The guy commands enough forces to place entire sectors into panic stations, who ordered the invasion of Chagoris on a whim and absolutely overrun it. A war where the Imperium is still struggling to reclaim all the territory it lost, and he now has a bastion across the Great Rift to boot. And oh yeah, let's not forget, he's also got a Blackstone fortress. Huron Blackheart may not have the prestige of an Abaddon, of a traitor Primarch or their Legion, but he also doesn't have the problem of history. He doesn't have the petty rivalries or mess of the Great Game. He is a man who could, and I believe would, see his power swell in any absence of the Warmaster. Seeing former members of the Black Legion flocking to his banner, and he would absolutely make the most of any power vacuum within the traitor legions. Being positioned within the Maelstrom, and not the Eye of Terror, could also be a huge benefit, helping him to keep out of any petty Legion warfare. Huron may not claim the title of Warmaster, and I think he's smart enough not to leave it well alone, to let his name speak for itself as the tyrant of Badab. But in actions and in deeds, I think his Red Corsairs could well become the main faction to benefit from any loss of Abaddon and the fall of the Black Legion. But as always everyone, what do you think? If there was ever a scenario where Abaddon was lost, who do you feel would rise to take his place? Which legion or figure would benefit the most from the power vacuum? Would the Black Legion fall to infighting, as I think they would? Or do you feel that there's someone there who could hold it all together, just as well as Abaddon? Would one of the traitor Primarchs rise to the fore, staking their own claims for power? Or maybe, like me, do you feel you should keep an eye on Huron Blackheart? As always, leave your thoughts in the comments below, I love to read them. Huge thank you to all my subscribers, your support truly means a lot to me, it really does. If you're new, please consider subscribing to help the channel grow. And if you enjoyed this particular vid, then why not drop a like on it too. With that said, I am off, and I'll see you all again real soon.